Hey guys, myself Sanchayan Kaur. I was a student of ICSE 2023 and I have secured 98.4% in my board exams. I want to gladfully convey my special thanks to Foundation YouTube channel who have provided me this wonderful opportunity to stand here and convey my guidance to my juniors, those who are preparing for their upcoming board exams. So, without much ado, let's begin. See, ICC board exams is not an grade. It depends upon your point of view, the way you are thinking. If you think it's easy, you are having confidence, studying hard sincerely from the very first day, it's really easy. But if you think it's very hard, the first heavy exam of your life, and you are going on studying like anything, leaving out social relations, no, it's not the thing. Even I have done all my curricular activities throughout the year, and even more I have done in this year. So it's not a solution. You can study, you can do well, but have confidence in you. Do not leave out social relations. That somewhat mentally disturbs you. Keep everything okay and let it go smooth. In this video, I am going to talk mainly about 3 golden knot, platinum points that you must follow if you want to score a very high percentile. First of all, be your own evaluator. Whatever you do, keep track of everything throughout your year. Whatever test you are giving in schools, tuition, or anything else, take every test very sincerely, study for it, and give the test genuinely. Yes, it might not be for all exams, but try to keep it for all exams. That yes, you are genuine from your way. Then you will see if you are keeping track of all your mistakes, how much marks you are getting in which test, and which chapters were involved, which chapters are weak for you, which chapters you are very strong with the concepts. Go according to that preparation. And before exams, keep all that track in front of you and analyze your performance throughout your year, what you have done. This will be very helpful for your pre-board exams as well as for your boards. The credit of this you will not understand in small exams such as unit test or half yearly, but this will help you in your pre-board when the whole syllabus is coming, or the board exam, which is the final battle for you. So coming to the next technique that I used to personally follow, and I think it's the best technique, that is the red ink technique. Yes, it might sound peculiar, but it's a very effective technique. The red ink technique is nothing but it says whenever you practice, and practice always by writing, because ICC wants writing. It does not want an oral exam. It's a written exam, and you have to present your whole knowledge in a very nice, precise written form. And the whole year's thing you have to vomit in just 2 hours in that hall. So red ink technique will help you in this way. Suppose you are practicing an sample paper or specimen paper that is released by the council in their website. You are solving it, but when the answer key is in front of you, you are check your answers with red ink, and the wrong answers you circle and cross it. So after that, when you will go through your own paper and your own evaluated script, you will understand, oh, this was the mistake and I have to correct it. And believe me, the red spot you make in your own answer will give you a great impact which other teachers' red ink will not give you. The third tip, that's you have to keep your division up to date. Suppose every backlog chapters that has been taught very before, very much previous days, and now you are on the way of completing your syllabus. But you should sit at your study table at your home and revise all the back chapters. Suppose in your tuition or in your school, the last chapters are going on, such as reproductive system, endocrine system of biology, or in physics, modern physics, you are going to enter, calorimetry is going to over, and in chemistry, organic chemistry is almost over. But at the same time, you have to sit sincerely at your home, at your study table, and return to the pages of your first or second chapter or fourth chapter. That's absorption by roots, it can be analytical chemistry, can be, and suppose you are going to write that equations and see how much you have retained. And I will guarantee you, or practice the banking formula, that's your second chapter of concise mathematics, and I will guarantee you, the day the chapter was taught, you had a lot more expertise than you have today on that chapter. To regain that expertise, you have to make your division up to date. Let them go. That will make you different from your other classmates. Keep up to date revision. When everyone are on the verge to complete syllabus, make sure that you revise all the back chapters, because they might be have gained much expertise in the current chapters, but in previous chapters they suppose are only 50% efficient. But ultimately all the chapters are going to come. The board or council will not see which chapters you have read previous or back. The question will have equal weightage of all chapters. So my advice to you all is that follow these 3 platinum points, and I do not think so your board journey would be a very overwhelming to you that you cannot handle. Now, let's come to subject-wise discussion. The first subject that might be you are facing your first board exam, that is English language or English paper 1. This subject is one of the most important subject and most of the students are terrified of it. Even I was also terrified of it. And this subject have the potential to boost up your percentage at the drastic level as well as bring down your percentile at the lowest level. So be very careful from the beginning, as I realized it towards the end of my preparatory phase, because this subject demands a lot of practice, which and this practice is should be accompanied by proper evaluation. Suppose you are writing an essay or a letter or notice email and there is no one to evaluate it correctly and award you marks. That's not the thing. And even if you are practicing any grammar set, have a proper answer key, an authentic answer key. What I used to do is that the total English book, most of the schools are providing that, and I used to collect the teacher's handbook that Morningstar is has been used to publish it along with total English workbook, and try to collect it and solve the total English test papers and match your answers with the teacher's handbook, so that you get idea that how many prepositions or conjunctions or do as directed statements you are doing correct. And from the last year MCQ has been introduced, which has been a might tricky, because all the four options resemble to you are very closer to each other, so it's difficult to make out the correct choice, and sometimes all one of that four is not absolutely correct but relatively more correct than the other three, so you have to be very careful in choosing that one out of four. So our next subject is English literature. This subject forms most of the students' comfort zone, because in this subject they can show their creativity, open-mindedness. And this subject, do not take it as a subject or as a burden that you have to score marks. Be open-minded, be very much familiar with the text. The more times you read the text, the more familiar you get with the text, and the lesser times it falls short. Because if you read the text more and more and more times thoroughly, in your answer it will reflect and make the examiner convinced through your answer that no, I have read the text and I know the contents of the text very well, and the concept of the text, the plot or the background of the text is very clear to me. And it's very essential for your MCQ solving. So to solve an MCQ of English literature, you have to hold a very stiff grip of the text and try to quote phrases from the text. This will enhance the quality of your answers, and try that phrases to use in your answer in such a way that it gets fit with all the first and the last word of your answer, and use to the context phrases. Do not use any phrases that you like. It should be related and with the reference to context of the question. Suppose you are asked that how does Duke explain Shylock in Act 4 Scene 1 or the trial scene. You can use the phrases an inhuman wretch, void and empty, incapable of pity. Like this word explains the attribute of Shylock in the point of view of Duke the most. Any other synonym will do the same work, but not like these words too. And suppose another example in the poem Daffodils, that's the first poem of your class 10, written by William Wordsworth. If the last question often comes that in which mood do the poet finds a portrait of daffodils in his inner eyes. And if you use the when you are explaining the mood, if you use the word pensive, it is the most appreciable word, because any synonymous word, empty, void, not disheartened mood, depressed mood, explains pensive, but nothing else explains pensive as pensive does. So try to use like that words, and I am sure that you are going to score a very good marks in this subject. And it's easy. Believe me, it's easy. But you have to study that subject not as an art subject. You have to study that as a technical subject, and try to give reading of the text at least every day. If not, then try to read the text alternate days. But obviously read the texts. So now let's come to the next subject, that's mathematics. Most of your students fear this subject, and it's have reasons in it too, because this subject demands an extensive labor. Even whenever I used to study the whole night, I used to dedicate that night towards maths only mostly, though it did not come in my best of 5 percentage, but I scored a decent marks, 95 in maths. See, this subject is very technical subject. You have to practice it a lot, and it should not be vague practice, it should be technical practice. Suppose you have to try the variants and try to cope up with the profile of questions that comes. You are, suppose in banking chapter you are finding the rate of interest and you are doing 10 sums to find rate of interest. No, practice previous year papers and do. Suppose you are doing 3 rate of interest, 3 time period and 3 maturity value. Like that you have to do. And please do not do every book and do not try to sums from this book, some chapters from that book. No, select a particular book, whether it be ML Agarwal or S Chand or concise mathematics. I used to follow concise mathematics, and do it thoroughly. Do not leave out examples, exercise, nothing, and it should be at your fingertips. And I am not giving the examples as optional, it's compulsory to do, because examples cover all the variant, all the profile of questions that are expected to come in ICSE. Because when a book is published with a heading that recommended for ICSE, it covers all the variants that you can expect in ICSE. So if you are choosing one book, you have to do it every and each sum. Do not leave out any sum. You can do optional in the last times, but when you are doing as a beginner, you have to do all the examples, all the theory, and even all the exercises. Because in examples, the best thing is that it covers all the variants, and sometimes some examples are too good that it's a little different type of sum which is not in the exercise. We generally do is that when we understand the concept, we generally jump to the exercise, but we miss out examples. But do not do it. I am saying it will help you. Now next comes science: physics, chemistry, biology. Physics is a subject that you have to do very conceptually. You have to use your brain, and it cannot be done by rote learning. You have to practice numericals, you have to understand the concept theory very well. And if you are following concise physics, I hope so this is only the best book for ICSE. And the exercise of concise physics should be at your fingertips. Whenever you read a concept, you should solve the exercise every question by question. Do not leave out any question, because in exercise the questions are designed in such a way that every concept of physics that are expected to come in ICSE boards is covered through questions in the exercise. Suppose if it's written define work, you should say or write work is defined as the product of displacement and force, and the displacement should be of the point of application of force in the direction of force. See, all the key phrases in the definition are highlighted in your mind, and you should, when you are saying or writing, you should underline that point or lay stress on that point, so that this definition, if it comes, you do not miss out any key phrase that would fetch you marks. And this subject, do not take it as a burden, take it as interesting subject related with the outside world. Then chemistry, again another same thing. You have to be very familiar with the equations, and if you are following concise chemistry book or Dr. Virabja Dalal book, anything you follow, you have to be very familiar with your textbook. You have to know, oh, this question comes, this was from which chapter, because from the first time it will be 2 or 3 chapters, but at the last, when you are bundled up with all 12 chapters or 13 chapters including practical chemistry, you would mess up the things. For to avoid to messing up of things, you should try to segregate that, oh, this equation from that, excess ammonia reaction is this, excess chlorine reaction is this, okay, periodic table, this trend follows this, and this was the exception. It should be crystal clear in your mind, and this comes by practice. You have to write that equation by your own hand, check it with a red pen, and the more familiar you get with the equations, the more quicker you give the answer, because the board exam has a very limited time. In that 2 hours, you have to vomit your all your concise chemistry whatever you have learned. So to give that vomit very effectively, you have to be very familiar, and whenever you see the question, directly it should strike from where the question has been come and what should be the correct answer. And believe me, if you are doing very properly, your chemistry paper would be over in just 1 hour. Even my board paper has been over in 1 to 1.5 hour. Even I have attempted 2 more sets, and I have scored a full 10% marks in chemistry, and in physics I have scored 96, though our paper was very hard this time. Next comes biology. Biology is fully your reality subject, and you should be very familiar with the diagrams, labeling, and everything else. And try to make questions whenever you see a diagram, and try to make related questions. Suppose you see the diagram in chapter sense organs, you see the diagram of internal ear. You should know, oh, this leveling is this, cochlea is leveled. You may be asked what is the function of cochlea, or what is the location of organ of Corti. Anything you can be asked. And try to make relatable questions. And always practice previous year question, because biology for ICSE has a fixed profile of questions. They give a diagram, ask 5 questions, each of 1 marks, and you can get a full 100 out of 100. Even I have got if you practice previous years very honestly and sincerely. Then comes history, civics, and geography. That consists of each 100 marks paper, and it serves as a average percentage in your mark sheet. These two subjects, most often the students who are planning to take science in class 11, I have also taken science, they think what is the significance of this subject in class 11? Though it's of not significance, but to get marks, you have to study them. And I have studied them not as a burden, I have studied them very lively. That okay, marks they will fetch me, then why should not I study? And I have scored both of them. In both the papers, I have scored 10% marks, and it's not very tough. If you study it very technically. See, for history, if you think we have to learn para by para and we have to write lengthy answers, no, that's not the thing. You have to read it very technically. Read the points. 3 marks question, 3 points with proper key phrases, keywords, and I would get a full 3 on 3. And in history exam, I had a immense confidence. Okay, if I have written 3 points, the examiner is bound to give me 3 out of 3. There is no chance of any mistake or any keyword that I have missed out that the question demands from me. Like that, you have to study. And if I would suggest, then I would tell you you should buy the Morning Star book, because in MCQ what comes in ICSE exams, the lines are exactly quoted from Morning Star textbook. So it's easy to decode that language and make that MCQ correct, which would fetch you 1 marks. And read it conceptually, especially civics, because in civics many applied questions may arise which you have to deal with concept, not rote learning. Same applies to geography. You have to read it point by point, and in answer also if you have to write by point. Many of you may have confusions. In different school different books are being taught. In different books different temperature range for agriculture chapter or distribution may vary. I would say the most authentic source is ICSE marking scheme. And if you follow the previous 10 to 15 years paper, I suppose the entire geography syllabus is almost covered. And if you follow that marking scheme, go to the Google, open the marking scheme of that any particular year, and match your answers with that, because in that answers many alternate answers are given which are been accepted by the council. So if you read in that way, there is no chance of any flaw or mistakes. In many books also somewhat the council does not accept that if it's not relevant, but according to marking scheme if you read, you are 100% correct. It is applicable for topo sheet as well as map also. In map pointings, specific points you have to follow that you can find in marking scheme, not in any books. So I would recommend, if you would follow marking scheme and read, it's very essential for you and it will be very helpful. Even I have read with that. For map pointing, topo sheet, practice is obviously necessary. And in history, try to make precise answer. Do not write lengthy paragraphs. Suppose you are writing a 1 page answer, the key phrases are missing. The examiner is unable to award you marks. But if you write in 3 points and 3 keywords that the question demands from you is present, then the examiner is bound to give you 3 out of 3. And do not think that I will attend extra and I will get bonus marks. No. Yes, it will be evaluated, but don't try. It gives a negative impact on the examiner. Especially in history and geography, I did not attempt any extra question because I was confident about my answers. And in geography, you have to attempt any 5 sets out of 9. So from first of all only, you do not decide that this 5 I will read, that fourth I will not read only. First of all, your MCQ is there, you have to cover every chapter. And second, suppose any twisting question comes in those 5 chapters which you have decided to attempt. So in that case, you have a chance to lose marks. So do not decide. Yes, you can have choice between 2 or 3 chapters, but please do not leave out any chapter and decide then to then, hand to hand in the exam hall. Okay, this question I would write a convincing answer that would fetch me a full 10 on 10. So decide on that spot. Do not decide pre-hand that okay, these 5 chapters I will read and that 4 chapter I will not touch only. For MCQ, oh upar se. No, do not do. Read all chapters and that spot you decide. That would be very helpful according to me. I have also did that. So the next subject and the final subject comes is computer applications. The name itself suggests that it's an application based subject and you have to be having enough clarity over the concepts that you are able to apply it in your programming. This subject demands both theoretical knowledge as well as practical knowledge, because in this subject, unlike other subjects, it's a 100 marks paper where 60 marks programming and 40 marks other theory outputs, MCQ, etc. What the technique I used to follow in this subject is 1:1 ratio. That's giving equal importance to theory, equal time to theory as it's given to programming or practice of outputs. Because if your theory are weak somewhat, the foundation of programming is going to be obviously weak, because key concepts lie in theory which needs to be applied in the programming. And be very careful about the data types, what functions the data types return. Suppose in the math function math.sqrt, math.cbrt, though you are given a very easy number, given math.sqrt 16, but the answer you are giving is 4. No, that is the thing where you are losing marks. You have to write 4.0, because math.sqrt is a function that returns a double value type. Be more cautious during that case. Now, if we come to programming, there are some fixed profile of programs that is obvious to come, as but obvious to come in ICSE, such as bubble sort, linear search, binary search, or any type of program, such any type of number programming, such as automorphic number, polymorphic number, palindrome number, lead number, Armstrong number, Harshad number, Niven number, anything. But the logic would be given there, an example you will be provided, and you have to able to apply that while loop or do while loop or for loop that is required to bring the output results. And a parameterized constructor program that comes, that's the must. And if you practice that chapter, that 15 marks is yours. So if you study this chapter or this subject very technically, and class 9 portion also it covers, because the first chapter of every computer application book, even the syllabus itself is revision of class 9 syllabus. So class 9 syllabus foundation, if it's weak, you have to work hard on that. And after that, operators, data types, loops, nested for loops, conditional statements is clear to you, then you jump on to the class 10. That's actually the first chapter, that's class or basis of all computation. Then come to arrays, string, and go on practicing. This practice makes a man perfect. And if you do the previous year of computer applications, and it should not be 10 years, it should be 20 years, because it covers all the variants: do while loop, conversion from one loop to another loop, and patterns of program such as JAVA. And whenever you are provided with a particular segment of program, think you are the compiler. You are provided with that code, and how the compiler would think. Think about the psychology of the compiler, and then you give the answer. Then I am sure that your answer would not be wrong in 99% of cases. So that's all for this video today. So let me summarize my ICSE marks. English language 95, English literature 98, mathematics 95, physics 96, biology 100, chemistry 100, history 100, geography 100, computer application 100, and Bengali, which was my second language, 96. So I want to conclude that it's not very tough. If you let it go smooth, balance all your things properly, and study hard from the very first day, you are also going to succeed your ICSE exam with flying colors like me. And it was very grateful opportunity for me to share my success story with you all and guide you all for your forthcoming board exams. And I hope so you all do very well in your board exams and sit on my same position guiding your juniors who would be appearing for their next upcoming board exams. So be happy, stay motivated, and make your preparatory journey an enjoyable one, not a burden for yourself. And believe me, the inner pleasure that you feel when you hold that mark sheet under your arms after the results are out is priceless. Though considering the fact that this is not of major significance to outside world in present day. This reflects nothing but your hard work, your patience, because board exam is not just a check of your knowledge. It checks your perseverance, consistency, and patience. So be happy, and I hope so you all do very well in your board exams and study hard from now and shine at the last. Thank you very much.